Hello, everyone. Welcome to Financeology 101. Class is now in session. The information provided during this podcast is just that information. You will need to do further research to address your specific situation. Enjoy the session. Welcome, everyone, to another session of Gifted Generations Presents Financeology 101. I'm one of your hosts, Robin Seegers, and the other host is
Roy Seegers.
And this session, we're going to be talking about discussing step 4 of your financial journey, which is understanding needs versus wants. Now, just do a quick recap. Back on January 25th, we did the first step, financial assessment, meaning taking the self-evaluation of your thinking and mindset regarding finances. Do you have a positive relationship with money? Do you have a negative relationship with money? What was the environment you grew up in? Um, Thinking back to how you saw things in the home. Did you see your loved ones handling money well, teaching you how to save and invest, um, teaching you how to sow into God's kingdom? Or did you have the environment where you guys were just making it day to day? And that's a lot of us making it day to day. So there was no talking of saving, investing, and those type of things. So you have to first take a self-assessment to see where you are mentally when it comes to money, what your current status is, and then what the environment you grew up in. That was back on January 25th. Now, the second step was back on February 22nd, which was setting realistic goals. Baby steps. Don't make huge goals that you setting yourself up to fail. So just make small changes here and there, small adjustments, and as things grow, then you can make larger set larger goals. There's short-term goal, mid-term goals, and long-term goals. So write down your goals, what you want to see, what you want to achieve with your money. Then on March 15th, we did identifying your income and expenses. And I know that you're probably like, why are you doing that? Because you have to write down what's your sources of income and where is your money going. And a lot of people think they know where all their money is going, but as Elroy can tell you, there's things that you don't even think about. So write down your goals, write down your income and your expenses. And now we on the fourth step, which is understanding needs versus wants. And I know we get this mixed up because it's subjective.
A simple rule of that, believe it or not, a need is something that's necessary to live and function with. A want is something that's going to improve your quality of life. So let me say it again. A need is something that we need to live and function with, or a want is something that can improve your quality of life, right? So do we need a car? Do we want a car? We can ride a bus. So you really that is like saying, hey, a house, that's a need. Apartment, place to live. Food, that's a need. Clothes, that's a need. So those things it can be very gray. And I was thinking earlier today, an example, what I mean by the gray area of needs versus want. And I do it to you because Robin, because you haven't heard my conversation with myself. So here's what I mean by what one person may see is a want, another person may see is a need. You got two people on the job, and let's say that two guys. Let's just say that they're admins, right? Level ones. They both start at the same time. They both got hired. You have one guy named Jim. He takes his clothes to the dry cleaners. He wants to look sharp. Then you have Keith doing the exact same job. Still looks sharp, but doesn't take his clothes to the dry cleaners. So Keith says to Jim, "Yo, man, why do you always got to take your clothes to the cleaner? That's a want. Do you need to do that? That's a want. I mean, you don't have to do that. This job doesn't require you to look so great. I look good. We both got the same job. So tell me, what do you think Jim might have said, if you was him?"
Because I think he's dressing for where he wants to go.
Exactly.
So in his mind, it is a need. That's why I say it's subjective, because
Exactly.
it depends on your situation. We can't tell people what is a need and a want. You have to decide that for
Right.
yourself. Like, say they both uh have black shoes to go with a black suit because they go into an occasion. But the Jim wants to have a new pair of black shoes,
He wants to impress
and
people.
it and you have to decide for yourself: do I absolutely need these shoes, or can I just wear the ones I already have? And only you can determine that.
Mm.
But everything can't be a need.
Right.
Everything can't be a need. And then there's a sacrifice. Like Jim,
Mhm.
instead of buying those new shoes, he could just wear the ones he have and buff them up and shine them up and make them work. So you have to determine
Right.
that for yourself.
Yeah. I think a lot of this has to come with the emotional connection to what you want to have and what you don't need to have. And what I mean by that emotional connection is we can always convince ourselves that want is a true need. And it's really a want. But because the way we look at that thing, we can cross over the lines. We can blur the lines and say, hey, you know what? This is a need. I got to have it. Doesn't mean it's a need. It's more emotional attachment, emotional purchase, emotional thing that you want to obtain versus something that you need. Now, I have seen plenty of people blur those lines, and as soon as they do that, something else comes up that is a true need: a flat tire, holding a tire that they need to get fixed because of that certain thing that they wanted. They actually purchased that. Now they're struggling to really fulfill that need. Now I
Right.
can't get to work. Now I may lose my job. Now I may be deducted pay. So you really got to look at the implications of what you're trying to purchase and what you're trying to obtain to really, check yourself. And a lot of times when you're doing it by yourself, that's when we go wrong. You need that strong person to say, hey, let me bounce this also off of you. What do you think? And I'm a type of person like you can do a lot of the things that you want as long as it's in alignment with your finances. If you need something, I mean, a lot of times you need something and your finances don't even line up. So
Hmm.
heck, how you gonna want something and then justify that? If your
Right.
finances are already out of whack and you just barely meeting needs, that want's gonna be incredibly hard to get.
Right. Right.
And I get it. You wanna feel as though, hey, I need a break. I need a day out, a day off from work. I need a vacation. I need to go to the movies. I get that because, you feel like you're working for nothing. You really feel like you want to work for something. So that's what Robin was saying. The previous step, you set those goals up to achieve those things. And when you get to this step here, those wants and those needs become a lot clearer. And you can be able to obtain those things without struggling within yourself as far as which one is a want, which one's a need, because it can become confusing. It is harder than what you really think it is. And you can really mess up your finances when you do those things. So I don't fault anybody who may blur the lines. I only fault you when you don't really sit down and put pen to paper and write those things down and make sense of those things. And you keep doing the exact same thing over and over again. And then you want somebody to bail you out.
Right.
You
Right.
want your 5 cell phones, you want your all the all the TVs in your house to be on. You want HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, you want everything. You got Hulu, you got Net, you got all those things done, right? But then you want to borrow money from me to pay those bills. No, turn something off.
Right. Right. And then there's times that you are trying to impress people. You
Yeah.
got to be careful about impressing people, because you trying to impress them, they're trying to impress you, and you both are in financial turmoil. You're struggling, they know they're struggling, but when y'all look at each other, y'all think y'all got it going on. You have to be careful with trying to impress the other person. That's why it's good to have a sounding board, an accountability partner.
Yeah.
And if people can't accept you for who you are, that you got to have the latest and the greatest and this and that to fit in, then that's not your crowd.
The key thing you just said was fit in. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
times we try to fit in, and that's where we go wrong. I just found something on the web here. It's from this website called, actually from a credit union, and it says, let me read it to you. It says needs versus want. How to tell the difference. One of the most important parts of setting up a monthly budget is separating needs versus wants. Before signing dollar amounts to any category, it is important to know which parts of your monthly expenditures are an absolute need and which items would be nice to include but are not necessary. Many people find this particularly challenging and may even give up on budgeting when they
Hmm.
can't move past this step.
Right.
That
Right.
that is huge. And this is back in July 6, 2021.
Because you're not willing to give up anything. You're not willing to have a better and brighter financial future. You're not willing to give up anything. And you anything in life, you have to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
Anything in life. And if you think everything is supposed to be rainbow and
Right.
butterflies all the time, that you're sadly mistaken. You have to make sacrifices. It don't mean give up everything, but some things you're gonna have to let go.
Yeah. So let's just do this real quick. You know, let's see how fast you are. I'm surprised on tonight. I'm gonna list 5 things you need to say need versus want. And some things it may be a struggle, some things you may just know off the bat. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna do them pretty easy.
Okay.
House,
I need.
car.
It depends.
There's only one answer. This is for you.
It depends. It depends on where you live. Because in the big city, you don't need a car.
Your situation now.
It's a need because we need a car down here.
See, we don't even be already, y'all. I'm about to fight right now.
It is. It's based on the situation.
I want you to answer this in your current state of mind, your current
Okay.
situation. All right. Let me start over, y'all. Apartment.
No, go. And housing is a need.
Okay. A car.
And where we are in need.
Okay. A night out on the town.
That's a want.
Okay. Vacation.
See,
I,
it could go either
I'm asking
way.
your state of
It go
mind.
for me. It could go either way.
I'm asking you. Well, you give me an answer right now.
Well, it would be a need if you've been working hard and you stressed out and you need a break.
Okay.
But it can be a want if you just want to because your girls are going
so
hang out.
y'all already see, you know, as far
It's
as categories,
subjective.
it's like, you know, one person may say, I gotta have a vacation. One says, we don't need a vacation, you say that money. And
Mhm.
that's based on the person's personality and
Mhm.
things that how they see, you know, type thing. Mother's Day gift. Do I need to get you one?
Well, yeah. But you know,
Valentine's Day gift.
but you know that for me, I'm not that person. So
I know.
that's not
But
my love
I'm
language.
trying to
Gifts
show,
are not my love
people
language.
how it can be confusing to a lot of people.
Right.
And we've been married 34 years. So yeah, you probably say, I need a vacation. I mean, we went through 1 year, I think, of our marriage where we didn't go on a vacation nowhere.
And we thought we was gonna lose our mind.
Well, she did, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And then she said, we'll never do that again. So the next year we went on 7 vacations. She said, that's too much. You remember that?
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, let's balance this thing out. 1 year none and 1 year 7. That's just, you know. And when I'm saying vacation, it could be just a weekend trip, a drive to the beach. It could be something that's not as pricey. Don't think every time someone taking a vacation means you're going to take a 7-day trip to Paris or someone like that. It could be like, hey, you know, I'm just going to take a short trip to Washington, D.C., get a hotel for 1 or 2 nights, and then drive back home. You're paying for a hotel for 2 nights and food. If you really want to be good, going to be cheap, take some food with you. You know, I mean, that's what I do a lot of times. I buy chicken and just, you know, restaurant and reheat it. So it can be confusing when it comes to want versus needs. And when I say it's not confusing as far as the category it should go in, it only becomes confusing as far as your heart desires and where you see fit mentally what a certain thing should be. And I would say, you know, if you are a couple, you know, I would write things down and should like a sticky note, right? And have a category, want versus need. So let's just say is one memo pad per person. So if I say vacation, I'm gonna have vacation in my hand and you're gonna have it in your hand.
Mm.
and you have a want versus need. You put yours down, and I put mine down. And when things are opposite, those are things you got to discuss.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
On the table, you got want on one side, needs versus the other. I got vacation in my hand, you got vacation in your hand. You put yours down, you put it on want, I put mine down on need. So we say, hey, we disagree on these two things. So this one we got to discuss.
Right.
So as you go
Right.
through the exercise, you might see you have more things in common as far as your wants and needs that could be lined up versus things that's not aligned up. That's a very simple exercise when you think you don't agree. You don't even discuss it. You just meditate on that thing. Just don't want to start no arguments, no fights, anything like that. Just that you just don't agree on it at this point in time. And you don't want to bring your pros and cons to the table why you see vacation is important, why I see it is not. And not to start an argument, just like listen to the other person and understand their viewpoint. You don't want to block them out. Like I said, that can be a roadblock that can just crumble any situation, a marriage, a friendship, even your own budgeting as far as trying to decide what is what. Because you don't get this lined up, you can go broke very fast.
And for people that's single, you do this with the accountability partner. You
Right.
talk to your accountability partner, somebody that is got themselves together as far as finances, and they got a good head on their shoulders, and you talk to them about what you want to do and what
Right.
you plan to do, and see what they say, because we have someone that we know that has been what's that phrase, is better to ask forgiveness than to ask permission. And
Don't get me started, child.
what they're doing is, we are their accountability partner, but they're making moves, and then after they've already spent
Made
the
the move,
money,
made the
made
move.
the move and spent the money, then
This
they
is what I
want to
did.
come and tell us.
Yeah.
And it's like, that don't sit well, because you're not learning anything from
Old
that.
habits. Old habits.
Yeah.
One thing I always do teach is this right here. When I'm having somebody with their financial goals, I do try to modify it for the first 3 months while I'm telling them exactly what to do. And then about the third or fourth month, I'm start saying, what would you do?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not going to be there, nor is your person going to be there every single time,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you're paying somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You help them out to get started. You line things up and then say, okay, this is the third or fourth. This is the fourth month situation. It's okay. You have give me all the details. Let's talk about them. Now, what would you do?
Mm-hmm.
So you're not deciding for them, but you're helping them to make decisions, because the more you make them independent, when these problems they arise when you're not around, they're able to make wise decisions.
Right.
Not saying that you're going to always get it right. Not saying you're going to always get it wrong. I'm just saying you'll be better at deciding,
Right.
and you can feel more comfortable with your answers as far as how you decide. So that's the weaning period. I'm
Right.
weaning you off. You calling me every week, weaning you off, meeting every week. Hey, this ain't free. So the more you talk, the more it's going to cost. So you can set somebody up, but the weaning period has to start. Some it may take 6 months, some longer, but you can kind of recognize that in your maturity. But I typically start about the 3 month period. Just say, hey, you at this point now, so we don't got to meet as much. You need something, just give me a call, or we can discuss it. And I like to do it that way, because you can, and it may take longer too, to talk somebody through those wants versus needs. Because you're trying to help them decide. I can say, that is this, don't do it, boom. And then like, well, dang, I just got told I couldn't buy it. I don't feel comfortable. So now they're emotionally disturbed. So if you help them talk them through it, you can help them to relate to their feelings. And now they're like, oh, okay. Then I would say, what is the impact to this decision down the road? What is this impact to your goal down the road? How much is this taken away from your goal? And if they can live with it, I'm fine with it too, because ultimately it's their decision. But as long as they know the impact, what's it's going to forego down the road, hey, that's fine. As long as they understand that.
You're giving thought to it.
Right. That is the biggest thing. Giving thought to your wants versus your needs. And sometimes it's needs versus needs, prioritizing those things.
Right.
And even wants got I remember back in the day, you used to say, hey, I'm going to do certain things to the house. You and I sat down and say, let's make a list of things. And then we prioritize them by price, not by, and it was price first, and then the importance of how bad we need it. So some things like, oh, it costs a lot, but we don't need that. Some things like, it was cheap, but we don't need that either. So we prioritize both together, and we got things done in a pretty good way. Some things was more expensive, but we needed it right away.
Right.
So there's different ways to doing different things as far as needs versus want, because they don't always line up. You got to really say, what is more important to you now
Right.
versus then.
Right. So you got to stop that emotional impulsive
Oh my
buying
goodness,
and
yes.
stop and say, do I really need this?
Yeah.
Do I really want that?
Yeah.
If I do this, how will it, impact me down the
Right.
road? Because I know Lord Johnny got a field trip in school.
Right.
And so do I really need this? So I could save that money and make sure he has a good time. He
Right.
has what he
Right.
needs. I
Right.
mean, when you start talking to yourself or
Yep.
talking to someone else,
It makes
and start
sense.
making
Makes sense.
reasoning instead of impulsive buying
Yeah.
and emotional buying, because we know someone that they emotionally spend
Mm-hmm. Yep.
because it makes them feel good.
Right.
It's a feeling for them, and it's like you gotta we try to tell them you have to get that in check because your emotions are all over the place and you could be broke.
And here's a funny thing. Doing the cash envelopes works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Felt good about it. But when you have to do a higher wanted need, the card comes into impact. So there's no emotional tie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the cash envelope had extra money every week.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow, this is really working. But then you had to do something different that didn't have money coming out of your hand physically. It was easy. I could pull the plug.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. I don't really feel that.
Right. Right.
I can see that it's depleting my finances, but I don't
Right.
really feel that. I only
Right.
feel it when an emergency comes up. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, that was a bad decision. But when you put that money plugging from your hand, you kind of like, let me stop and pause. Remember that one
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
we was in Disney and the boys kept asking me for money for stuff, and I was giving them money, no problem. I said, no, what? Let me just give y'all some money, and that way you can manage your own money. So when you want something, you can just go and buy it. They ain't buy nothing.
Nope, they kept all their money.
Uh,
They like, I don't need that.
it
I
was
don't want
it was
that.
it was Tori wanted a watch. It was like $32. I said, you got money in your pocket? He said, I got to pay for this. Yeah, you got money in your pocket, you can pay for it. Nah, that's okay. I don't want it.
When it was his money, he didn't want to spend it. When it was our money, he was like, get
Oh
it.
boy, I thought that day was funny as I don't know what. I was like, a little different when it coming out of your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I ain't missed the ATM all day long. No, it's your mama. So it does make a difference. And the good thing about that is that you're teaching. We were trying to teach our kids. We did teach our kids young the difference between a want and a need.
Yeah.
They're mature enough now to know, yeah, I can still do the things that I want, but my finances line up with my goals, so I'm good to go. So the key thing is that if you have a want, what I just said, as long as they align up, you can do those things. You just don't want to do them too much where everything become a want and you can justify it because hey, if you're a millionaire, you got a lot of wants, you can do it all day long.
Right.
But in the end game, it's like why are you wasting all that?
Right.
You
Right.
can do other things with it. So
Right.
doesn't matter how much you have or how much you don't have, you still want to make sure you are wise with your finances.
Because if you think about it, if you buy the things that you want and that feeling, it goes back to emotions. That feeling, you feel
Yep.
so good for a
Yeah.
couple of
Yeah.
days,
Yeah.
the
Exactly.
feeling gone.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
you on to the next thing.
Yeah.
And I remember our sons when they were little, they would be, oh, I want this, I want that, and they were us to
Yep.
death, and we would get it for them. And then like a week or so later, that's in the corner, and they on to the next thing on the list.
Shiny object.
And it's like, what? And it took us a while to catch on. It was like, hold up,
Yeah,
we buying you these things and you all excited, but the excitement don't last long, and
Yeah.
then you on to the next thing.
Yep.
It's like they had a checklist of the things that they wanted, and as they worked down their list,
Yep.
of course the list was never ending because they kept adding to it. Then we stopped. We started telling them no, and we
Yep.
started teaching them,
Yep.
no, you don't
Right.
need that. And that's when it was hard. Believe me, it's hard with kids, and it'll be hard as an adult to learn that everything you see you don't need.
Amen.
There's a lot that you do need, but there's a lot of things out there that we absolutely don't
Right.
need, and
Right.
you have to know that for yourself.
Right.
You have to make sure that your finances are in order.
Right.
Even if you have the money to buy everything you want, is that good?
Yeah. You're right.
It's not. It's just not always good because to me it seemed like to me it would be a waste to keep buying all these gadgets and all of this stuff, and it's just sitting. You're only one person, so
just think about your decisions.
yeah.
Don't make them don't try to make them less emotional, more analytical,
Mm-hmm.
if possible. and then maybe use a friend or somebody that you can bounce things off of. Now, if you got somebody that likes spending money, you may not want to use them.
No, because they
It may
can be
not be
like, come
wise.
on, let's go shopping.
Well, I wouldn't be too good for that then.
And just have a balanced life. Make sure you have it balanced.
Yeah.
I'm not saying be so stingy that you're not enjoying life, but don't be on the other side where you just having the best time ever and you only have 2 pennies in your pocket. So try find that sweet spot for yourself where you can have meet your needs and then get some of the things that you want, just not everything.
Go call my buddy Shirley. She go shopping with me. All right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. It's a short session. Because wants versus need may seem simple, but it can be very complicated when you allow emotional to come into the play. So once again, a need is something that is necessary to live and function with. A want is something that can improve your quality of life. Now you may say, "Them shoes will improve my quality of life." That may be true, but it is like Roy said, it can be subjective to your situation as far as what you may need. Because if I'm going for a job interview, them shoes may be important. Am I right?
Right, right,
Right.
right.
If I got a job and I got 200 shoes, those shoes may not be as important.
Right, right. You
So,
just have to find that
right,
balance. And
right.
then I want you guys to also, when we do these sessions, I always try to find a article online that aligns with the session. So Friday there will be an article on our Facebook page that has uh, a story about needs versus want. So just check that our Facebook page out every Friday because I always try to attach a story out there or
And share it
article.
too.
Yeah,
And
that
share everything
aligns
else.
with the aligns with the podcast that we're doing. I always try to
Yeah.
do that.
All right. So our Facebook page, y'all, is facebook.com, of course. Look for Gifted Gen LLC. Of course, our podcast is uh, Gifted Generations Dash LLC podcast on Podbean, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. Look
Mm-hmm.
for Financeology 101. That is us. Financeology 101. Instagram is gift.gen. That's GIF that dot GN. Let me do that over. And Instagram is let me do that again, y'all. I'm gonna get it together, y'all. Gift.gen. That is gift.gen. And then YouTube, of course, is at Gift Generations LLC. So look us up. And then, of course, our website is giftedgenerations-llc.com. Please don't forget that dash because you don't know where you may end up. So we thank you for your time for listening today. This want versus need. I know one thing, you need to listen to this podcast again. Share it with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
That's a need. That's
And
not a want.
and
That's a
go
need.
back and listen to step 1, 2, and 3, and then step 5 will be coming in a couple weeks. And I think that's actually getting into the nitty gritty of getting that budget going, putting a pen to
Budget.
paper
Ooh.
and getting everything going, getting your system going.
Numbers. I love numbers.
Yeah.
I love numbers. I love Excel spreadsheet. Oh, I love crunching numbers. All right, then. I'm sorry. she's like waving me up. Come on, man. Wrap this thing up. All right, y'all. Thank y'all for listening today. My name is Edward Siggers. This is my wife, Robin Siggers. This is Financeology 101. And we'll, like I said, share, like, and make sure you let the friends know that we're out there. So tune in the next time that we're out and about.
All righty. Thank you. Have a
All
good
right.
night.
All right. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you for tuning in to our podcast, Financeology 101. I hope you enjoyed this session and the information provided will assist you on your financial journey. Until next time, be financially engaged.